Good evening and welcome to RaceKraft Simulations. My name's Chris Mitchell as we embark around 1974 Spielberg. Do not adjust your sets, do not change the channel, you are not seeing old playback. This is the rerun of last week's racing. Unfortunately being plagued with internet connection issues, we decided to rerun the night. And we are back again here at RaceKraft Simulations for round 4 of the SRT Trackmasters Academy GT1 Championship, and we go to 1974 Spielberg in a rare opportunity that the drivers actually knew what tonight's track was a week in advance. Usually with the SRT Trackmasters Academy and all of the RaceKraft League nights, nobody knows what the track's going to be until they get here and they sign into the session and they see the track we're running on. But because we announced last Monday night that we were going to rerun this race, everyone has had a week to practice. Has it changed anything? I don't think so, although the lap time seemed to have gotten faster. Jonah Sita has set himself a 1:30.2 to be on pole tonight from Alexani in second. Kate Bell set an early 1:31.04 and has decided, well, he did decide at the time that he was done, but it looks like he's gone back out to try and see if he can better that time. But the big advantage is going to come if you've got a tow down the straights. That's why Jonah has a 1:30.2, because he had a monumental tow to get that lap done. Behind them, Anthony Jewell sits in 4th at the moment. Julian Unga on a 1:31.3 sits P5. Josh Cochran in 6th. Tom the Pom Hamlet in P7 from Brody Cullen in 8th. Ray Magano, who took the pole in last week's original qualifying session before we went to the 5-minute super shootout. He currently sits 9th on a 1:31.6. Then V-Race 3, V-Race 5, V-Race 4, Rowan Jones, and the RK11 machine of the man himself, Mr. John Lee, in what used to be I think he used to run a McLaren. However, unfortunately, due to the way the cars are mapped in Automobilista 2, the Porsche is so much faster, it's not even possible to be competitive using anything other than the Porsche. So the field has decided it's basically going to be a one-mate category, and I'm pretty sure everyone is out there driving the Porsches tonight. Some of the cars you can't see. The way the cameras are set up within the platform here, there we go, we can see some cars in the pit lane now as Alexani sits parked up with Jonah Sita for a better company behind him, as they've decided to sit back and chat about the laps. Julian Ung is out of the seat as well. The same for Cade Bell. He's over giving Tommy Hamlin a bit of a hassle. But it's a tough class to be racing. These cars are pretty quick in a straight line, pretty hard to rock and roll. And if you're the man like Johnny right now, who's in the full motion rig, rocking and rolling his way around the circuit, it's going to be a bumpy ride for the next 9.5 minutes of qualifying, and then into our 30-minute race from Spielberg 1974. I believe the time has been set. No one's going to get close to that now. Jonah has the pole on a 130.295. And I don't think anyone's going to get anywhere near that. Our top three have parked up and called it a day. Julian Ung in P5 has parked up and called it a day. And a bit of a shake-up to the rigs tonight as well. Alexani and Julesy have both been sent over to the VR rigs into RK3 and RK4, while Tom Hamlin has taken over the motion rig. Although he's got the motion turned off, he's just using the triple screens. Cade Bell is on the Fanatec Podium Porsche endurance button module gear rig. He's running that tonight, while Tommy has a go with the SimuCube equipped rig. The truck simulator has been parked up. That's now out the back in the build room. We'll live to fight another day. I'm sure we'll see it in use here in League Night once again, as Johnny Lee parks himself in old trusty, old faithful RK11 with the endurance button box, SimuCube wheelbase, and the SimCore OMP GT wheel bolted to that. And he's on the D-Box motion rig, bobbing and bouncing his way down the straights at the moment. We'll grab Johnny for a little bit. We'll let him take us for a lap around Spielberg in Austria from 1974. Almost a couple of laps down with Johnny Lee at the helm as he rocks around Spielberg 1974. For the track originally opened in this configuration in 1969 as the Osterreichring, the original replacement for the unloved Zetwilg Airfeld. The circuit a little bit further down the road, down lower on the hill, that was used in the late 50s all the way through till the late 60s. This circuit became what we now know as the Red Bull Ring, although it went through a few different iterations, a lot of shortening and a lot more corners added over the years. In fact, in its current configuration we're racing tonight, 5.9 kilometres. What we see nowadays of the Red Bull Ring up to date, which we run the official Grand Prix, Austrian Grand Prix, down to 4.3 kilometres. So a big shortening of the racetrack, and a lot of the straights were cut down and replaced with tighter circuits. But the original main straight is still there. We still use the original main straight to this day. It just gets shaved down after, over the years, they added a series of chicanes In the late 70s through to the late 80s, they added a chicane at the end of the main straight at the top of the hill. And then in the late 90s, they shortened the whole track to be the Spielberg or Red Bull Ring, which we know it today. But we're racing on the old school circuit in old school cars. It's GT1 League 9 here at RaceKraft Simulations. We're following on board with Brodie Cullen on a 131.4 at the moment. Brodie did go a 131.0 in practice earlier tonight, putting in a load of time to try and get faster in these cars and really committing himself to the cause. It does take a fair bit of work to get fast in these cars, but he sits in P8 at the moment in qualifying, using a really wide entry into that final corner, washing off the apex on the way out as he tries to maximise the speed to climb the hill with 3 minutes and 15 left to go. And Brodie jumps up to a 131.02. He goes third, knocks Kate Bell down a spot. Brodie Cullen goes to the second row of the grid with a great time, 131.02. It's a million miles off Jonas Cedar's time, but no one's going to get close to that here in qualifying. Great lap there from Brodie. He'll be happy to start from the second row of the grid. Tommy Hamlet working his way around the right-hander at the Bosch curve before making his run to probably the most important part of the racetrack, where all the lap speed comes from, into this set of double left-handers, washing a little bit across the racetrack and out into the marbles. It's not going to make for a fast lap. Dabbing the brakes and waiting a long time before he gets back into the throttle at the Texaco chicane. Tommy Hamlin on a 131.305. It's super close in the middle of the pack here. The top five are, well, they're a fair stretch away from the rest of the field. Jonas Cedar is on another planet right now, 130.295. Zani on a 130.8. Then it's Brodie Cullen 31.02. Kate Bell 31.04. Julesy on a 31.06. Then a couple of tenths of a second back to Tom Hamlin, 31.305. Julian Ung on a 3.15. Josh Cochran on a 3.83. Ray Mangano on a 5.81. And a couple of the V-Race boys on a 9.81 and a 32.003. Rowan Jones on a 32.1 and Johnny Lee on a 32.3 in the 13th spot tonight. So with a minute and a half left to go, the final chance in qualifying to set yourself a fast time and move yourself up the starting order. A couple of guys still turning laps at the moment. We're going to jump on board with Cade Bell. We'll go outside the car to watch him drag the number 8 and wring its neck around Spielberg here as he brings it all the way down Valvoline straight, swings it to the left-hand side before he dives onto the middle pedal to slow it up for the Bosch curve. All right. The master clicks continue. And we get to go racing. Everyone going to be bumping into the starting grid here as they all filter through to jump on in. So we'll line things up as Jonah Cedar will get set to start the field from the front row of the grid here from Spielberg, 1974, for the rerun of the SRT Trackmasters Academy GT1 Championship, round number 4. As they bring the revs up, the lights start to count down. We are away and racing, and an epic start from Cade Bell from the second row of the grid. I'm sure there'll be a couple calling that a jump start. Oh, and there's bodywork flying already down the main straightaway. One of the Porsches, the gold Mobile 1 entries, has lost the front clip off the car. Not a good look to start things off for a half-hour race. As the Porsche GT1 1-Make Series goes rocketing up towards the Tirlock curve. Hard onto the brakes and trying to do it around the outside. One of the Porsches slamming into the wall. Was that Johnny Lee? Johnny was one of the Porsches caught up on the opening lap here. He's going to the back of the pack as Cade Bell is weaving down the Valvoline straight. They're trying to cover off the inside line. Jonah Cedar points him to the left-hand side of the racetrack. Cade Bell squeezes him out, and Jonah tucks back in behind. He's going to try and choose the high line through the Bosch curve, and he's going to try and go around the outside. They're almost rubbing wings as they go side by side on the way towards Texaco. Jonah has the inside line, and he gets the race lead back. Your pole starter gets the elbows out and fights his way forward here at Red Bull Ring 1974. Bell back to the second spot now. Alexani sitting back there in third, just waiting his time. Ray Mangano getting dropped down to the back of the field as one of the casualties of the opening lap shenanigans. I notice here Tommy Hamlet has an issue. He's out of the seat, and I think he's copped enough damage. He's actually just completely exited out. And how'd you be? He's got 28 minutes to watch the rest of the race here. The classic Tommy Hamlet rage quit here at RaceKraft Simulations. He'll be right. He'll crack a beer. He'll be a happy boy again. Jonah Cedar leads from Cade Bell. Heading up towards the Tirlock curve. Alexani tucking in behind him again here. As we are sans Alex Newton tonight. He put on a great show last week in this class at this very track, having a fantastic race, trying to race it out for the podium spots here. As it looks like Johnny Lee has crashed himself into the pit lane and copping some repairs. A couple of big names falling from grace really early in the session here. As we're only 2.5 minutes down, 27.5 to go here at RaceKraft Simulations for the SRT Trackmasters Academy GT1 Championship, round number 4. The battle for the top 3 is on screen. We follow Cade Bell, the meat and the sandwich at the moment, as Jonah Cedar leads the way. Bell in second, Zani third, then Julesy and Julian Ung having their own battle for 4th and 5th in the Cat in the Hat team racing colours. Jump back real quick and check out that battle as we've lost a couple of cars. We're down to just the 12-car field. This is the battle between Julesy and Julian, fighting it out for 4th and 5th as they come screaming around the final corner onto the main straight. Behind them is V-Race 5 from Brody Cullen, and Rowan Jones making a step up into the 8th spot from 11th on the grid. He's had himself a pretty decent start here. As Julian fires it up the inside at the Halalicht corner at the top of the hill here before they charge, and he's going to drag the aero around him to give Julesy the advantage up towards the Tirlock curve. Julesy doesn't get the advantage, or doesn't capitalise on it at least. As they head on to Valvoline straight, they can see the leaders further up the road here. And Julian wants to make a run for it. Look at the gap he's putting on Julesy already. As they go through the left-hander into Bosch Curve. The gap for 4th and 5th is petered out, but we'll grab the battle for 6th, 7th and 8th here. Brody Cullen, V-Race 5, and Rowan Jones following each other all the way around the Bosch Curve. And on the run towards Texaco Chicane, having a crack at it tonight. Jones very late on the brakes into Texaco, keeps the car tucked to the inside nicely. He's trying to figure out how he can pick up the pace and close the gap. Saying the difference between a practice session and actual qualifying when it comes crunch time is huge. He was in the 31s in practice, couldn't even crack it below a 132.5 in qualifying. Struggling a little bit to set a time here. Although I don't think it would have helped by the time gaps we had in qualifying. It was like the top 8 were all under a 131.5. And then a bit of a gap further back to the rest of the guys in the field as we're going to jump forward again to this battle for the race lead. Jonah Cedar leading from Cade Bell, who's not really getting the advantage at the toe at the moment. Jonah continuing to punch a hole in the air. If he manages to gap out a little bit further, Cade is going to be left eating his dust once that toe dissipates. Oh, and behind him, Alex Zani has spun it on the exit of Tirot Curve and he's looped it. I cannot believe it. Alex Zani has spun it. We're down to just 10 cars. So Julian Ung goes to P4, Anthony Jewell to P5 from Cullen and Jones and V-Race 5. Alex Zani goes all the way down to P9. Johnny Lee stepping out of the server here. He's decided to check out. He's going to go play on his own racetrack where he doesn't have to worry about crashing out of the race. As we follow along at the moment, Julian Ung holding on to this 3rd spot. He's now 5.5 seconds off the back of Cade Bell, who's starting to feel ever more lonely in 2nd with the loss of Alex Zani from that fight. Cade is sitting there wondering if he can ever close the gap to Jonah Cedar, who leads the way, clicking off a 131.01 fast lap a moment ago. And a half-second advantage as they head down towards Bosch Curve. We're coming up to 23 minutes to go here in the main event. The SRT Trackmasters Academy GT1 Round number 4 rerun from Spielberg 1974 on the hill in Austria from RaceKraft Simulations. Bit of a development happening here as Julesy starting to struggle a little bit. He's fallen right back off the battle with Julian. And all the way back into the 5 spot now. Brody Cullen has gone around for P4. Rowan Jones about a second adrift of this fight. Watching on thinking, oh, maybe consistency does pay off. as he watches this fight. It was a 134 for Julesy that lost him all that time. Now the pressure's on Brody, though. He'll be driving with one eye firmly planted on the rear vision mirror, trying to keep an eye on what Julesy's doing so he can try and stay in front of him and pick up the 4 spot tonight, maybe even pick up something better, depending on what happens out front with only 10 cars left in the field tonight. Joe Nocita continues to lead the way from Cade Bell, a second off of him in the second spot. 6.5 seconds further back to Julian Ung in the third. And then 4 and a bit back to Brody, who we watch in P4 right now. Julesy right behind in P5, Rowan Jones behind him, making a step to RaceKraft Simulations tonight to have a crack at it. Usually spends his time racing in late models within the iRacing platform. Holds a couple of world records for his name. He currently holds down the 6th spot. Josh Cochran, no stranger to racing at RaceKraft Simulation. He holds P7. Alex Zani on a comeback drive. We'll try and pick up with Alec for a moment as he's trying to charge his way back through the field after that spin right here on the exit of Bosch Curve. Not sure whether Alec had to pit and take some repairs, but he currently sits in the 8th spot ahead of the 2 V-Race entries, V-Race 5 and the V-Race 3 machine. With 19 minutes and 35 left to go, we're approaching the halfway point here at RaceKraft Simulations for the SRT Trackmasters Academy GT1 round number 4 rerun from Spielberg in Austria. Great battle going on here between Josh Cochran and Rowan Jones, fighting it out for 6th and 7th on the road. They went side by side up the Fletcher straight towards the Tirok curve. Cochran gets to the inside. Jones now tucking in behind him, trying to get the slipstream, and he's going to try and do it around the outside to set himself up in fine form on the way into the Bosch curve. He's going to slip through and they're going to touch, but they stay level. And Jones is trying to keep the car steady, but they're going to drag race each other out of Bosch curve in towards Texaco. Now Cochran has the inside line, but Jones goes around him and manages to keep it on the black stuff. Cochran trying to find a way around, putting 2 tyres onto the grass as he washes across the rear bumper of Jones. And the matching IBM Mobile 1 liveried cars chasing each other around here for 6th and 7th. This is a great battle, and it looks like Rowan Jones will pick up the spot and will hang on to it. But will he hang on to it for much longer is another question. Now Cochran has the tow, heading up the hill, trying to pinball the car and stay in touch with the aerodynamic wash behind them. Alexani is watching, and they're going to be punching a huge hole in the air that Zani will be picking up and gaining on them down the straights to see if he can get involved in this fight and drive his way back into the race. Just keeping one eye fixed on the lap times further up the road as well as Josh Cochran goes around the outside of the Tirok curve. Jones drops back to the 7th spot again. Zani slowly creeping up on the back of this battle pack. We'll jump forward real quick because Cade Bell is within 9/10 of a second of Jonah out front. Last time, Bell was about 4/10, or a couple of tenths of a second faster, not 4/10, but a couple tenths over Sita, and he brings the gap down a little bit. Behind them, Julian Ung falling further and further off this battle. It's Brody Cullen further back there in the 4th spot. Julesy having a lonely drive a couple of seconds further down. This battle again, they're going at it. Cochran, Jones and Zani. Almost even Stevens now as Zani continues to try and close the gap onto this fight. I mean, last time he only managed to put down a 132.4. Jones and Cochran both in the 133s, though. He's still a second faster than them. As they bring it around the final curve, at the right curve and back up the main straightaway towards Halle Licht. Coming up to the halfway point of our half-an-hour race tonight. Zani continues to close in on this battle. Jones is looking for a way around. He's going to look to the right-hand side, and they're going to drag race all the way up towards Tirot Curve. Jones gets a nose ahead. Oh dear! There is cars flying everywhere as they arrive on the scene, and they are into each other. Oh, and Rowan Jones gets into the side of Josh Cochran. Has to jag reverse. Who was caught up there? That was the V-Race 3 machine getting caught up, and Julesy cleaned him up. And Julesy now tabs out of the race. And his race will be done. We're down to 9 cars left in the race as Cade Bell still hangs on to the second spot. They are dropping like flies here at Spielberg. Josh Cochran into the 5 spot here. Alexani in P6. 10 seconds further back now is Rowan Jones in the 7 spot. As the drivers start to really fan themselves out around the Spielberg circuit. 5.911 kilometres from 1974. Spending the majority of the lap at wide open throttle on the hill at Red Bull Ring. Sita leads the way as we check in for our half-race update. Jonah Sita leading the way here in Spielberg as he brings it out of the Tirot Curve and on the way down towards Bosch on the Valvoline Straight. Cade Bell 1.7 seconds further behind in the second spot as they're coming up to put a lap on the stricken V-Race 3 car that is limping its way around the track. It looks like it is severely broken and trying to get around to the pit lane to get some repairs. Doing their best to try and get around. Unfortunately for the V-Race 3 car, really struggling with a broken rear end on that thing. Jonas Sita, though, leads out from Bell in second. Julian Ung snuck through there in third. Brody Cullen is about 4.5 seconds further back in P4. Josh Cochran another 8 seconds behind in P5 from Zani, V-Race 5, and Rowan Jones now dropping down to the 8th spot. V-Race 3 circulating in P9. It's 13 minutes and 10 seconds left to go here from Spielberg, here in Austria from 1974 for the 4th round. The rerun of the SRT Trackmasters Academy GT1 Championship here at RaceKraft Simulations. I cannot believe it. Jonah Sita, as we check in, hit the wall at the beginning of the lap and is just giving it away to Cade Bell. The sound of excitement rung through the venue here at RaceKraft Simulations as Jonah Sita has done his usual trick of finding the wall while leading the race and gives it away to Cade Bell, who's going to take off out front. Bell with a 5-second advantage over the rest of the field. Now can Cade Bell survive the leader's curse with 12 minutes left on the clock? He's trying to hang on out there. Sita back to second. Julian Ung in the 3rd spot. He's got about 6 seconds, 6.5 seconds to make up to the back of Jonah Sita. Brody Cullen back there in P4. Josh Cochran in the 5 from Zani. V-Race 5, Rowan Jones, and the V-Race 3 entry. And Cade Bell will lead the way. Could this be the maiden win for Cade Bell here at RaceKraft Simulations? We'll find out in 11.5 minutes time for the 4th round of the SRT Trackmasters Academy GT1 Series. And Jonah Sita is in the pit lane getting repairs after that incident. Disaster for Jonah. He's going to fall a long way down, copping repairs, and that puts Brodie Cullen now, this man, up into the 3 spot as we follow him onto the Valvoline straight on the run towards the Bosch curve with 10 minutes and 45 left to go. Cade Bell leads the way now by 10.8 seconds over Julian Ung in the 2nd spot. Brodie Cullen another 4.5 seconds further back in P3. Josh Cochran 10 seconds further behind in P4. Alex Zani slowly climbing his way back up into P5. He's only a couple of seconds off the back of Cochran now. So we'll grab this battle as Zani continues to try and close the gap to the back of Cochran. Last time across they lapped almost the same times though, as Zani trying to recover from that early race incident where he got caught up and spun it on the exit of the Tirot curve. 1.6 seconds is the gap from Cochran to Zani, 4th and 5th on the road at the moment, ahead of V-Race 5, sitting further back by another 18 seconds or so. Jonah Sita now all the way down in the 7th spot after grabbing pit repairs a moment ago and rejoining the race. Rowan Jones in the 8th spot from V-Race 3, rounding out your 9 remaining drivers. There's 9.5 minutes left to go from RaceKraft Simulations. Eight and a half minutes left to go. Alexani is losing time to Josh Cochran. He cannot hang with him right now. 132.3 for Zani last time across the stripe. Cochran a 132.1. Cade Bell is your leader, setting the pace of the field on a 131.7. The times are really dropping off as the tyres are falling away on the cars. Julesy sitting on the couch, stewing over the incident that happened on track, thinking he would have waxed the field out there in Spielberg. We'll go to your race leader, Cade Bell. Jules is feeling somewhat proud because Cade is using his normal rig. There's going to be a punch-up in here at RaceKraft Simulations for who wants to use that rig next week. Although the rig that Tommy Hamlet was on has been the most winningest rig of recent history with Alexani at the helm. Although Tommy didn't have the same kind of fate today, fired it into the wall on the opening lap and has gone into a private session just to cut some laps by himself. As Bell last time across a 131.700. As he fires it into the long right-hander before he brings it around onto the main straightaway to start his 16th lap of the circuit with 7 minutes to go on the nose. A 131.7, 6th that time for Cade, proving ever consistent with 11.5 seconds of gap over Julian Ung in the 2nd spot. Brodie Cullen a few seconds further behind in P3. Josh Cochran 12 seconds off the back of that now. Zani now 5 seconds off the back of Josh Cochran in P5. From V-Race 5, Jonah Sita down in the 7th spot. Rowan Jones in 8. V-Race 3 rounding out your 9. 6.5 minutes left to go from RaceKraft Simulations. 5 minutes left to go as Cade Bell continues his march around the Spielberg 1974 circuit. The lap time's continuing to drop off though. He's now down to the 132s. Losing a little bit of time is Cade. Julian Ung last time by at a 132.3. Brody Cullen, however, a 131.7. Josh Cochran, a 131.9. Alexani, 132.1. Cullen and Cochran are getting faster and faster, trying to close the gap and put on a fight at the pointy end of the field, but they are running out of time. We're going to grab Brody Cullen for the moment, who's driving over quietly right now as he can start to see up the road. The green card there is Julian Ung holding on to second. So Brody Cullen is on a mission to drive it to second here in the dying moments of the race at RaceKraft Simulations. Cade Bell just has to hold on and not make a mistake, run off the road or spin the car, and he will win the night. With 11.5 seconds the advantage he has over Julian Ung, this man Brody Cullen is trying to chase down that gap. It is 2.1 seconds, 1.9 seconds. It's getting tighter as they bring it around. Julian Ung is in the wall, and Brody goes sailing on by on the main straightaway. Heartbreak for Julian as he runs the wall around the final corner and goes limping up the hill on the main straightaway. Brody Cullen claims second. He didn't think it was going to come to him that easily. Julian down to the third spot. Josh Cochran in P4. Alexani now in the 5. Still trying to close the gap to the back of Cochran. Although last time he managed to pull 7/10 of a second out of Josh. Trying to chase him for P4. Brody Cullen just flirting with danger, dropping a wheel into the grass at the exit of the Tirok curve. With 3 minutes left to go here in Spielberg. Out front, Cade Bell has managed to open up the gap now to 12.8 seconds that he hangs on over Brody in second. As the gap's well and truly spread out around the circuit here at the Red Bull Ring. This venue was recently announced as going to be hold a doubleheader of Formula One Grand Prix. Once again in 2021, it will hold both the Styrian and the Austrian Grand Prix in consecutive weeks on exactly the same track layout as part of the Formula One management's reshuffle of their circuits instead of going to Istanbul in Turkey, which is sucks, man. They should have gone to Turkey. What a phenomenal circuit that Herman Tilke designed for Istanbul, with the 8 apex corner on the way down through the circuit there in Turkey. That'll be missed in this year's Formula One calendar, I'm sure. As Brody Cullen makes his way around, a minute 45 left to go here. He's looking good to hang on to second. He's managed to pull out about 4.5 seconds over Julian Ung in the third spot. Josh Cochran still 10 seconds off the back of that in P4. Alexani is trying to close down that gap. We're going to grab Zani for a moment to see if he can make any impact on that gap as he comes out of the Tirok curve and makes his run down the Valvoline straight. He can see Cochran further up the road. It's 3.5 seconds the gap. At this rate, he would need a good 7 or 8 laps to close that gap, and he's just not going to get enough time. With 1:10 left on the clock on a 1:31 circuit, you can do the math. You're not going to help out. You're going to be able to tell me that he's not going to be able to get that 8 laps that he needs. So it will take a mistake from Cochran in the closing stages here for Zani to get up to P4 on his recovery after an early race incident. Saw him unstuck as he clipped the grass. 45 seconds left to go. We'll grab Cade Bell, your race leader, as he makes his way around what will be his final lap of the race. He's driven a clean one. The car is unscathed and untouched. Hard onto the brakes into the Tirok curve for the final time. Lapping on par with Brody Cullen in the closing stages here. Both of them flicking off the 1:31.7s. But Cade Bell down the Valvoline straight for the final time here. Led a happy race and a great battle earlier on in the race here with Alexani and Jonas Sita in tow. but mistakes from either of those drivers has seen him emerge well and truly out front with 12 seconds the margin. Into the Texaco chicane here as the time has expired. All Cade has to do is run it to the line and he will get the win for the night. Through the right-hander. Down the second and final straight. He's on the home stretch is Cade Bell. Down into the right curve for the final time. And on the way onto the main straight as Cade Bell gets a maiden RaceKraft League night win here. He will run to the line. Bell will win round 4 of the SRT Trackmasters Academy GT1 Championship. Cade Bell is your winner. Brody Cullen will bring it around the final corner and pick up a great result for himself after qualifying towards the pointy end of the field. Brody comes home for second. Julian Ung just behind will drag it down the line to claim third and round out your podium here. About 6 or 7 seconds ahead of Josh Cochran, who brings it around to finish P4. Alexani behind in P5 will wrap up the top 5 of the field from the V-Race 5 machine, going side by side with Jonas Sita. This will be a photo finish. They're into each other at the end. Sita and V-Race 5 going to go diving down into the final corner to fight it out for P6. Oh, runs each other into the wall. That's a bit dirty, and they're going to both ring it around the Armco and drag it onto the main straight. V-Race 5 will run it to the line to get the spot. Jonas Sita to P7. Rowan Jones will bring it into the final corner to wrap up the 8th spot here as he drags it down the line. A lap ahead of the V-Race 9 machine coming across the line to wrap up your 9 finishes. That is a wrap from Spielberg, Austria for the 4th round of the SRT Trackmasters Academy GT1 Championship. Cade Bell, your winner tonight after half an hour of racing. Hope you enjoyed the show. For watching live online via YouTube from RaceKraft Simulations, my name's Chris Mitchell. It's been a wicked little evening. Thank you so much for joining us. You can jump on over to RaceKraft.net for all the latest and greatest in the sim racing world. All the coolest products, race rigs, DIY products, and of course official race hardware from right here on Grogan Road out near Perth International Airport. You can go on RaceKraft Simulations Facebook page to see all of our latest updates. We've got some cool content coming very soon here. Johnny's doing a couple of technical guides. We're finally getting Johnny on camera. So don't go anywhere. Jump on over to the page. Get all the latest from RaceKraft Simulations. Otherwise, we will see you next week as we go Formula 1 racing. We go Formula 1 racing next week for the 5th round of the SRT Trackmasters Academy. Good night.